Interesting how Instagram is always delayed. There we go. Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is David Heacock. I'm the founder and CEO of FilterBuy. Over the last 12 years, I've bootstrapped a business to $250 million plus. And now I'm on a mission to build the world's leading indoor air quality company and to do it publicly. And I have made every mistake in the book. And this Q&A is designed to help me share a little bit of that wisdom so that maybe you don't make the same mistakes that I did. You can make different mistakes. And I'm always making new mistakes as time goes on. That's just life, especially life as an entrepreneur. But how we learn from those mistakes and tweak our strategies and push forward is ultimately the differentiator. And I oftentimes when you hear me talk about the same topics over and over again, it's I'm really doing it for myself to remind myself of just how important a number of these core principles are that you hear me repeat over and over again. And in our long form video, over time, we're talking about some of these principles, and I'm kind of trying to do my best to share with you, how I learned those principles the hard way, and do that through some stories and just kind of showing how I've done it. And the idea isn't for anyone to copy what I do, but to use it as a combination of inspiration and just a way to give you ideas for how to experiment with things or to approach problem solving, or frameworks for thinking about building a business. Because what you'll find is that there are a lot of frameworks that are applicable across any business or life situation, and that is generally the stuff that I am doing my best to focus on with my content. But at the same time, I'm doing it through example and through kind of showing how I do it, and showing you where I have failed along the way and had suboptimal outcomes because of it. Um, and I absolutely love entrepreneurship, and that's a big reason why I've started to build this community and started to do these live streams and whatnot, because I love connecting with other entrepreneurs. And I do think that there is a lot of bad information out there, or I would say misguided information, where the whole truth is not really shared with you. And my goal is to be as honest and open as realistically possible, and kind of use my entrepreneurship journey and my business as the example that I can show you, how I've done it and what I've learned along the way. So, with that, I think I will start to take some questions. We did have some questions in the community board this time, and which I really appreciate. And I just remind everybody that if you want a higher probability of your question getting answered, putting it on the community board ahead of time almost guarantees that we're going to take it and answer it if it pass some basic criteria. So asking questions ahead of time in the community board will get you at the beginning of the line. We get a lot of questions while we're live, and we can't get to all of them. But if you go and post on the community board, we take those first. And then last but not least, don't forget to hit the like button on this stream wherever you are, because ultimately that is what feeds it to other people and what will keep me doing it week in, week out, because I can't justify doing it if nobody shows up. So I really would appreciate it if you would hit the like button. I know it sounds so corny and cheesy when I say it, but having kind of studied this now for the last month or two, I can tell you just how important it is. So every time you hit the like button, I really appreciate it. So with that, we will go on question number one. Michael, what do we got? Rival repairs. When you first started manufacturing, how did you compete on price with other competitors to get a foothold? I find it hard to compete when I'm not buying with the same economies of scale. I try and differentiate to add value. Are there any other options, strategies I can use to get better prices for suppliers and reduce cost? Thanks. It's a good question, and there are lots of ways to approach this problem, and I can kind of talk about it from a high level, without knowing exactly what you were in. But first and foremost, you need to understand like what you expect your like long-term competitive advantage in your space to be. But it's like if you're just trying to get up and compete with other manufacturers that all already have economies of scale, that's probably a pretty tough road. Like the differentiator in my case was, we were a direct to consumer business, so we were selling to direct to end user, so had a high, that was our sales channel, so we had a higher average order value because of that. We were not competitive from a manufacturing perspective. In fact, I could have bought a lot of basically all of the early product meaningfully cheaper than I could manufacture it at the time. But because we had the direct to consumer model, which is higher margin, we were able to get through it. So I mean that was kind of ultimately how I was able to do it. The second aspect of it that is really important is like when you're going and dealing with vendors, you got to put your sales hat on. You got to go in and explain to them what you're doing, why you're doing it differently, why you're worth investing in, what you need from them. And more often than not, they're going to help because they're incentivized to see you successful. And if you put on a good enough sales pitch, then they're going to go kind of figure out a way to help you. And like early on, I did that very aggressively with each of our vendors. I went and I met them in person. I told them what I was intending to do. I explained to them that we were very small right now, but in order for me to be able to achieve this, I really needed their help and their buy-in. And I was able to get that in some pretty big ways. And so don't be afraid to go and have that conversation and be honest with them and say, listen, I need to be competitive to be able to make this business work. And I would really appreciate your help as I have this new angle that I'm approaching the industry in, that I think will be good for you over the long term if you can help me. And then you got to be loyal to them. And in the future, like if somebody comes in and offers you a little bit of a cheaper price, you can use that as leverage to say, hey, I'm getting this pricing over here, and have a discussion with them. But you ultimately want to do your best to continue to do business with them. And that's kind of been the strategy that I have used when doing that. I guess that, and then like you said, you're differentiating and adding value is very important, and that really comes from your sales strategies. Like you need to know what it is that when you get to that scale, what your competitive advantage is going to be. If it's just going to be you're going to be able to compete with other people with economies of scale, it's probably not something worth fighting and um, you know battling these things. But if you do have a differentiator that you think that when you get to those economies of scale truly are going to differentiate you, then I would use that as the leverage to go to all my vendors, tell them that story, get their buy-in, get them to take a chance to give you the discounts that you need to be successful. The other thing which you should keep in mind is sometimes there are buying groups in certain industries that do get pricing power that you're able to kind of leverage to be able to get better pricing. I mean, like a good example would be like in the shipping industry. I mean, like in UPS and FedEx, you have to go and negotiate rates one-on-one when you're a larger company, but there are lots of resellers that go and negotiate it to give people a better everyday rate, like a ShipStation or a Vico or something like that. So basically every industry has things like that. And so like going to a trade show that is specific to your industry and like looking for either buying groups or other people that are in your similar situation that you can split POs with, or things like that can also make a big difference depending on the industry you're in and the kind of materials that you're sourcing. So all of it comes down to creativity, and basically every business problem comes down to creativity, whether we like it or not. I guarantee you there is a way, but you're gonna have to be creative in figuring it out. And I just kind of gave you some of the tools that I have used historically. I've basically used all of the ones that I just articulated there. But I'm sure that there are more that may be specific to your industry, whatever it is. So it's definitely doable, but you have to be creative, and don't forget that you also want to make sure that it's going to be worth it in the end. Like you have to understand what your real competitive advantage is going to be long term. And if you cannot articulate to that to yourself, then I would be a little bit cautious. I'm going too heavy into it, but as long as you are convinced of your long-term competitive edge that is unique to you, and you just have to get over this hump, then I would use some of the strategies that I just talked about to get there. Um, and last but not least is you can place bigger purchase orders, and maybe you don't have to repurchase for a few months, but bigger purchase orders and negotiate terms as much as you can, and that would be another way that you can kind of get your order value up to a vendor, and hopefully keep your cost down. That's another strategy that I've used in the past successfully. So hope that helps you a little bit, and I wish you best of luck on your manufacturing venture. Dov Lieb, a follow-up question on your AI comments last week. Can a non-programmer create that one-person business that competes with a large legacy business? The answer is yes. I truly believe it's possible, now, and I think that every month that goes by, it's becoming more and more possible. That being said, I do think that understanding how programming and development works is still pretty key to being able to do it. I mean, like one of the beauties about these, LLMs that are widely available now is like you can effectively have an LLM teach you to do programming or teach you to do the executing of code, as you go, and then it can help you to bug fix as you go. And so, you really do not need to have a programming background to be able to do that. I mean, in fact, like I think I'm a good example of that, and that I am not a good programmer or developer, but I do have the ability to run and build and execute code, solely using the LLMs, and oftentimes just saying like asking it to teach me. It's like, how do I like what program do I need to run this code, or how can you fix this error, or things of that nature. You can have a conversation with it, and over time you kind of learn enough to push forward to the next. So like, yes, I do absolutely believe it's possible, and I think that as time goes on, it's going to become more and more possible. The real, like I think I like to use the analogy of a car, or like a race car. I mean, it's like you can have the most beautiful race car that has all the horsepower and everything you need to win, but the skill set of the driver still really matters, right? And the better you are at driving and understanding like the nuances of how the wheel turns and all of this kind of stuff, are the differentiator between somebody who is like world class at it, versus somebody who just drives every day to work. And with the LLMs and whatnot, the like you can't take everything that they are spitting back out to you as the truth, because they make mistakes or they hallucinate, and like all of these things happen. And this is why the the knowledge of your industry, like the domain knowledge, and being able to be the one that says, hey, this doesn't make sense, I need to ask some more questions or do a little bit more, um, you know digging on this, even with the same LLM tool, because something is off. Like you have to have that kind of sense, to be able to make it work. And I think that's where people get stuck. I mean, it's like you have some people that want to put it into an LLM and just say, "Hey, do everything for me," and do no thinking, and like that's not going to work. I mean, they're just not good enough, certainly yet, for that. And I think it'll be a long time before they are. But if you have those critical thinking skills and you have the domain knowledge, which I think is super important in that, to be able to kind of smell test everything that you're doing as you go, then you will find that you'd be shocked at what you're able to build with this. So yes, I do believe it's possible, but I think that that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. You do have to build some of those skills, and you can oftentimes use the LLM to help you. But the barrier to entry in that is lower than it's ever been, and I think that is only going to continue. And I'm really excited about it, for one, because I definitely think that there's so much opportunity and value that's going to be unlocked by that, and so much efficiency that's going to be unlocked by it. And what we're just going to find is that there's a lot more code written and a lot more, tools that are built that make all of our lives easier and more efficient. And I think that if you can figure out a way to do that, then you will be successful. And I think that the skill sets that you will build on that journey will also, in and of themselves, make you very successful and marketable. So it is something that I would not be afraid of taking on if I were, you know, a young person and looking for a business idea or something to do with my life. So I'll leave it with that. But best of luck and um, enjoy it. Invent with me. Fourth year of e-commerce here. When do you get comfortable living off of loans? I hold expensive inventory, and as long as I'm growing, I am funding the business with lines of credit or Shopify Capital. Should I just embrace the debt? The main issue is the fear of a bad shipment from my manufacturer, but still being stuck with 11% loan. Thanks. I've never gotten comfortable living off of loans, and certainly not, high interest rate loans like I would imagine the Shopify Capital loans are. I don't know anything about them specifically, but I've seen a lot of these kind of e-commerce lenders, and unfortunately, oftentimes are quite predatory, and do not completely disclose the actual rates that you're paying, because I think generally they take a percentage of revenue back every payment period or something like that. So like the APRs are really through the roof and a lot more than you might think. So I'm really not a fan of them, to be honest with you. And I would be very nervous building a business that way. Um, I don't want to burst your bubble, but I wouldn't be comfortable if I were in that situation. Um, I think that there are a lot of ways that you can start to fix this, and like how that would be is like payment terms with your manufacturing company would be one of the most obvious first ones. I mean, like going and figuring out how to negotiate that and make the risk theirs rather than yours, I think is super important. Um, and you know, ultimately, like if you have a great business that is growing, but like this is your problem, then you might want to de-risk by bringing on an equity partner that's going to put in the equity to help you to fund this growth, without taking on the risk of having loans against your inventory specifically and this kind of stuff. Um, I if I was in your situation, those are the types of things I would look at. And to be honest with you, this is one of the reasons why I think like the traditional, what most people consider direct to consumer, kind of e-commerce businesses are not that appealing, in my opinion, because they are very capital intensive, and oftentimes, when you're growing, they're very cash flow negative. And that's part of the reason why I built the business I have, and the business model we have is like we manufacture all of our own products, and we keep um, you know maybe 3 weeks of finished goods inventory at any given time, within our kind of whole system, and we largely get paid up front from customers, because we're selling on credit cards. And so that's kind of we have because of that we have a very good what they call cash conversion cycle. I mean, that's kind of what you want to understand is like your cash conversion cycle. And I think that there are some tools that do, like, I think it's 13-week cash flow models and whatnot, to really help you to understand how to optimize it. And like I would search for that and think through how to implement that in your business and really understand your cash flow and your cash flow dynamics, because that's what's ultimately going to help you to optimize it. But I would be reluctant to rely too heavily on that kind of predatory inventory funding, to be honest with you. And I would highly suggest taking the time, even if it means growing a little slower for a while, to figure that out, so that you can do it in a more measured way. And I think that you may not move as quick short term, but you will thank yourself longer term. So that'd be my best advice with that. And if you share more details, I could maybe give you some other ideas with it. But that would be my best advice for now for you. Ozzy Flower 009. I think you would be successful in any business. The question I have, if you had $250,000 in capital, what do you see in 2025 as the best business to start, buy into, or would you just be better off to leverage it and play the stock market with AI research and purchase good market analysis? Wow. Well, I definitely don't think that you want to just hodl it on AI, stock market leverage. So that would not be my answer. You know, I think that this might be this might not be popular, but what I would say is I would save that money and you kind of use that as your safety fund and maybe your living expenses, and then go out and find a business to start or an entrepreneurial venture to start that you're really excited about, but not use that money to fund that venture. Use your time, and even if you wanted to go get some investors to use other people's money, I actually think that is a more rational approach than taking that money and using that money to go all in on it yourself. As I told you, or as I talked about last week, if I were starting today, the thing that I would be most interested in is, building some type of company, like around AI that was ultimately, you know, that was ultimately going after a bigger entrenched player that had, much bigger overhead and was likely to be disrupted by AI in the next few years. I mean, there are so many like niche industries and examples of this. I mean, like I think within the healthcare field alone, you could go out and find tons of use cases for that. But like you really could look at any field and find like unique, specific use cases that are where you could build a business probably as one or two people that would automate some aspect of their business, and you are able to offer a lot of value for that and get your overheads low. It's a very high margin business. I think that there are just tens of thousands of potential companies that can be built that would fit that bill. And I would much rather see you take that $250,000, put it in savings. Like you could put that in like a index fund or something safe, or just put it in treasury bills, whatever, depending on your risk tolerance, and say, okay, I'm going to give myself the next 2 years, as I always talk about, to really build something. And I think if you put your head down and went all in on something like the business I just articulated, you would find that that you had built something that was worth quite a lot in a 2 year period. And the nice thing is that you have the $250,000 that can be your backstop. And it means that if you're not able to take money out of your business for 1 or 2 months, because something, you have a cash flow issue like the last person, then you're not stressed about it because you have that money saved, and that gives you the staying power. And that's a great place to be. So I would definitely not be in a rush to take that money and spend it or do something with it. I would kind of put it in a lockbox to give you the safety net, and then either go out and build something that you can do on your own, or find an investor to fund the risky part of it for you, and do it from a place of strength because you have money in the bank and staying power in the bank. And I think that you would find that to be a lot more valuable than taking that money and just feeling like you had to do something to put it to work. So that would be my advice for you. I hope you listen to it because I think you'll be happier in a few years if you do. A lot of times, people, myself included, you get a large chunk of money, and you're like, okay, what am I going to go do with it? What am I going to go do with it? You almost want to get rid of it. And I actually think the opposite should be true. I mean, like you should be thinking about how you're going to use your time and your skill set really to create value. And that's way more interesting to me than like using capital to create value, because if that's the case, then when you run out of that $250,000, then you're kind of in trouble because you got to go out and get more capital. Whereas if you're able to create value without that capital, either using other people's capital or just creating something that is valuable because of the framework and the skills that you have, that's way more exciting, and it's something, and it's a skill set that you'll be able to use over and over and over again in my life, in your life, and it's something that I've noticed in my life. And I think that you'd be best off going into it with that mindset. So that is where I will leave it for you. Even Akbar. Afternoon, David. Still morning here, um, but afternoon to you. Do you find that your morning workouts prime you for a busy day? I just started doing morning workouts myself. Um, yes, I think it's extremely important. Although, for full disclosure, I have missed the last 2 days because I have been quite sick. Believe it or not, maybe you can hear it in my voice. Maybe I'm not quite as energetic as normal today. Um, but yes, absolutely. I do think that it's extremely important for me, and it's the kind of thing that if I don't do it now, I really pay the price, and I miss it. So, like, for me, I'm addicted to it, and it's what gets my body and my, more importantly, my mind primed for the day. And also, it may sound cliche, but it's like, when I get up and I work out and I do something really hard, then you know like, is way harder than any business problem that I'm going to be dealing with the rest of the day, because like, it's just way more painful than basically anything else that I'm going to have to deal with. So once I get that out of the way, first thing in the morning, then and puts everything else in perspective. But I think that working out for me, and I think this is probably true for most people, is as much is important is just as important for my mental health as it is for my physical health. And it's something I regret not taking seriously earlier in my life. I think I talked about it in one of my POV episodes, that um, I wish I'd taken it more seriously earlier. It's not a prerequisite to being successful. I mean, I certainly did not take it nearly as seriously for most of my entrepreneurial career as I have in the last couple of years, because I've had the time and the money to invest in it really the last couple of years. But it's something I wish I had taken more seriously earlier, because I do think it's just so critical and important. And the younger you are, the younger you are when you get that right, the easier it is. When you wait till you're 40, like I did, or 38 or whatever, then it's actually a lot harder to get your ducks in a row than it would be like if you're 20. So, like, if I could go back to my 20-year-old self, I would build that habit and routine then, and just live it consistently. And that would be that's really the only thing that I would change in my life, honestly. And I've said that often, but like, that's the only thing. If I could change anything over the last 20 years or so, it would be that. I mean, everything else I'm along for the ride on, and happy with. But that's something that I wish I had done earlier. But I've really gotten a handle on that in the last few years, and it's extremely important to me, and it's something I would definitely highly recommend to anybody. But just for full disclosure, some people, morning's not the time, and for them, they want to do it in the evening, or they want to do it at lunchtime. And there's nothing magic about the morning necessarily. I mean, for me, it's important. For me, that's for my schedule and for my energy levels and all this kind of stuff. That's the best time for me, to do it. But I mean, I don't think there's anything magic about the morning. So do whatever makes sense for you. But it's definitely something that's super important to me. So all the best to you on your fitness and entrepreneurial journey. Evan Ray. I've enjoyed watching your channel grow. I'm a software engineer considering starting an agency specifically tailored to custom manufacturing software and AI. Do you see a strong market for this? Um, you know, I don't know is the answer. Like, the what I guess when you say agency, it makes me nervous, because it makes me think that you're looking to offer bespoke solutions to people. Which I'm not saying you can't make a business out of it, and I think there will be probably good businesses made out of it. I just think that's a much harder business. And in general, I know a lot of people make a lot of money with agencies. They're good gross margin businesses and all this kind of stuff, and a lot of people that talk about it. And so, like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. I would absolutely hate running an agency business and all the people and kind of client stuff involved with that. To me, it's just a recipe um, for disaster. What I would be way more interested in or what I would be thinking about if I were you and I was really interested in what you're talking about, is going and finding an industry and a use case that has where there's a need for some type of software, and or there's a legacy player within that has not been updated in a long time. Maybe a lot of the industry runs off of it. Has gotten very expensive, maybe bought out by a private equity company that's just trying to raise their licensing fees every year. But the whole industry is reliant on this, antiquated piece of software, and then go in with a um, AI first tool that you and hopefully a very small team built to be able to go after them. I mean, that's kind of more of the example that I'm talking about um, when I'm giving these examples. And I at least I would be way more excited about that than I would be about going and building an agency. I mean, you could do it, you could try it in a few different industries depending on how big of a lift it is going to be for you. I mean, I don't know exactly what your history and skill set and whatnot is, but ultimately I would be way more excited about doing that than going the agency route. But a lot of people make money in agencies, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But it's just you're going to constantly be having to acquire new clients, and you're going to have churn of clients, and you're going to have build people to interface with the clients and all of that kind of stuff. And that's just not a business that I would personally enjoy running. So hopefully that answers your question. But there's definitely a lot of opportunity in that space in general. I just think you want to be thoughtful about how you're actually going to approach it. Yahya Mohammed. Um, what would your advice be for a 23-year-old young guy looking to break into the home service business? I work corporate 9 to 5. Um, you're 23 years old. If you really want to break into the home services business, I would probably go work for a home services business and drop my 9 to 5. I mean, I don't know what 9 to 5 you're in, or how well paid and cushy it is and all this kind of stuff, but like, you're going to be best off going and getting experience. Like your best, like if you can do it, your best thing, your best bet is going to be go find somebody that owns a home services business, or hopefully a group of them, and go and work for them, maybe be their right hand person. I mean, that would be the best case scenario, if you could find somebody that's already kind of doing what you want and go and learn it that way. Do that for a few years, and when you do that for a few years, you'll know enough to know what makes sense, for you. But I wouldn't rush into just going and starting one unless you had a lot of specific knowledge in an industry that gave you a competitive advantage. I would go and work for somebody that's already doing it, even if that meant taking a pay cut from my 9 to 5. Because you're 23 years old, this is the time for you to take risk, and really more importantly to go out and learn. So I would go out and learn a business, even if that meant working as a technician or something like that for a while, so you got to understand how the money flows through the business, like where the margin dollars are, where the customer pain points are, where you could offer a better value, all these kind of things. That's what really differentiates in a home services business. So I would go out and get that experience. And if that's what you want to do and you're stuck in some 9 to 5, you're 23 years old. It's only going to get harder. Now's the time for you to go out and pursue something like that, even if it means taking a pay cut for a little while. So that would be my advice. Don't overthink it. You just got to go do it, but you really need to go get the experience. I mean, I would be way more reluctant to tell you to go start one if with no experience. You've been working in 9 to 5, and like all of a sudden you're going to go start a plumbing business with no, with no real knowledge. That would make me very nervous. I'd rather see you spend a few years, go get some experience. And then when you do that, you'll have a much better idea of what you're getting into when you actually start something of your own. And I think that the home service business is a great niche now, better than ever. Actually, I think that like with AI and all the automation and whatnot coming, that those physical trade businesses are not likely to go away anytime soon. Maybe one day you'll have the robots do all this stuff, but I think that and that's going to be quite some time off. And I think that there's going to continue to be more and more need for these types of businesses. This big reason I'm investing so heavily in them, and what I spend so much of my time and energy around. So it's definitely something that I would encourage, but go out and get the experience first. Don't rush into it, um, because it's just going to bring you a lot of pain if you do. So be patient. Don't rush into it. Go out, get some experience. Ideally, work for another entrepreneur that's doing it. But in worst case, go work as an like technician type employee in one of these businesses. Get some experience, and then talk to me in 2 years, and maybe you're ready to start your own. But that would be my best advice. D Smacks, have you been considering acquiring more home services HVAC companies, or is that more of something just done for research? Um, well, the answer is yes. I absolutely intend to buy more indoor air quality businesses with time. Like hopefully, ultimately, partnering with ones that are already established, where we bring our kind of infrastructure and capital to be able to grow it. Um, and that's a big motivation for why I am doing all of this content. I'm not quite ready to roll it out yet, but my holding company is called Filter by Ventures, and we are going to be kind of doing a big launch around that in the next couple of months, where we're going to let people that have these types of businesses essentially apply or contact us and see if it's a good fit. But I'm on a mission to build the world's leading indoor air quality company, and in order to do that, I'm going to have to partner with people and acquire other businesses in the space, and that is a big motivation for me going so public. And this Filter by Ventures is my holding company that does that. And yes, I do want to acquire other HVAC service companies and other indoor air quality businesses that fit certain specs. Because I think it's aligned with my mission of building the world's leading indoor air quality company. So, as I think you were alluding to the episode where I talked about how I lost $4.5 million or so in a failed business transaction in the HVAC services business. That was definitely a big learning experience for me, and then pivoted that into what is now Filtered by HVAC Solutions, where we've kind of built our version and infrastructure of this from the ground up. And I'm very thankful that that happened in some ways, because ultimately it kind of forced me to get my ducks in a row and really understand the business, and really have a solid plan for that going forward. And that's what I've spent the last few years doing. But now we're in a position where I do intend to start acquiring other businesses in the space over the coming years. And that's the big reason why I'm out here talking about it so much, because I want people to that fit the bill, which we'll be talking a lot more about, like what that looks like, to be reaching out. And if it's something that makes sense for all of us, it's something that I'm definitely interested in doing. And part of the beauty is that we at Filter By have 8.5 million or so customer relationships, and that's growing every month. And the we're able to we bring a lot of marketing potential and brand and this kind of stuff to the table on these things, and that's really where I intend to take my whole personal brand, and why I'm taking the time to be so public about it. Because if people don't know you exist, then they're not going to reach out. So you know that's the kind of behind the scenes, I guess, answer to your question. But I'm trying to be as transparent as possible with all of it. But it's something that we're working on getting ready to kind of launch that over the next few months. So it's something you'll be hearing a lot more about in the years to come. But yes, that is definitely in the cards for us. But I'm not rushing into anything. I want to make sure that we're doing things that make sense both for us and the people we're partnering with, and making sure we're all able to be better off when it's when we are on the other side of it. And that's something that I'm really excited about, but I take a lot of I feel a lot of responsibility around. So it's something that's going to you're going to be slowly hearing more and more about it, and I look forward to being able to share some of those publicly when we do it, so we can kind of see how it works and can support them and all that kind of stuff. So that's the answer to your question. Rex, I owe you a phone call. I know. I'm sorry. I've been sick the last couple of days, but I will call you later today. Good morning, David. I own an automation company, and as a young company, what are best financial tools to leverage, i.e., line of credit or other financial tools to grow the business? Well, Rex, I think I even answered this to an earlier person today. In an automation company, it should not be a super capital intensive business. That should be more of a people intensive business. So I should hope you would not need too much um, you know leverage or whatnot in your business. But my my best advice in general is it is not worth it to overextend yourself, and also that um, you know unfortunately a lot of these businesses, maybe not the automation business, but a lot of like manufacturing businesses, the question I answered earlier in this live stream, they're a lot more capital intensive than they let on, because you ultimately have to buy raw materials. You got to be able to inventory a decent amount. People pay you on credit. People pay you on credit terms. You get stuck with dead inventory. Um, all of this kind of stuff. You have to buy equipment. All of these things add up, and you generally are not going to do well if you're always playing defense, which I think a lot of people early on in business, get into something with a bright idea. They quickly realize that it can be multiple years that is cash flow negative before you're able to make it successful. And I've definitely lived this the hard way, to be honest with you. And I think I've talked about it some in some previous content. We'll talk about it more, but I definitely made this mistake, and it is very painful, and it's not something that I ever want to make the mistake of again. And so, ultimately, I think that, having, access to a line of credit can definitely help you in terms of giving you like some peace of mind. But if you are, funding your business solely off of a line of credit, then it can be a very stressful thing to live, because, if something goes wrong, you really don't have much of a safety net or any of a safety net, and it puts you in a very bad position. And that happens to a lot of people. I mean, I think I told the story. I know I did somewhere. I don't remember where, but um, I remember the time where I essentially bought the original business called TMS on using a line of credit, and about two or 3 years in, I was down to like my last $150,000 of liquidity or something like that, and I borrowed basically $1.2 million, and I was really struggling because I did not see how I was going to be able to dig out of it, to be honest with you. And it just felt like it was getting worse every month. And I remember then kind of digging in and like really understanding my cash flows, really understanding what was going on to be able to get out of that situation. Um, and I made the commitment to myself that after I did that, I was never going to find myself in that situation again. And I haven't. Like we have a line of credit that's fairly substantial that we have not touched in years, and I keep it as a safety net, because I need to have liquidity if something does go wrong. But it's not something that at least I would feel comfortable operating a business off of purely a line of credit. And I did that very early on, and I really paid the price for it. And it's not something that I would recommend or personally intend to do again. So, ultimately, your best bets are to fund it through cash flow and to move slower, and realize that you need to be patient. You always hear me talk about patience, but being patient in that kind of situation means maybe you don't grow as fast, but you're cash flow positive and can grow organically. So it's either that or take on investors. I mean, those are really your two best options. And if you want to use a little bit of debt, I think that's okay. Generally, I would be more of a fan of like equipment based financing than I would be like pure line of credit based financing, because pure line of credit based financing oftentimes I think can get people in trouble. And then interest rates change, or maybe like you don't meet the capital requirements all of a sudden, and they want to call the loan on you. All those things can happen very quickly, and oftentimes do. And like it always happens at a time when um, when you need it the most, and that's just the way it goes. So that's why relying on that kind of stuff is um, highly ill-advised, in my opinion, and it's just not worth it. You're better off moving a little bit slower, but being able to sleep at night. And I've not always followed my own advice on that, but it's something that I feel very strongly about. So that'd be my best on that. But I will call you later about the other stuff later today. I've not forgotten about you. Will Roach. I've enjoyed many of your videos. Well, which ones did you not enjoy, Will? And hearing about your myriad aspects focused on growth. Exciting. Wonder if you could share your perspectives on starting your company from a competitive landscape perspective. How competitive is the air filter industry, and what have been your best tactics getting market access and customer loyalty? Thanks, Will. I mean, the air filter market is about as competitive as you get. I mean, at the end of the day, an air filter is largely a commodity, and so that's why the reason I even say that is because it just shows that you can differentiate and basically whatever in any market you go into, but you have to understand what that differentiation is. But the key. Is differentiation, and I believe like we published a video that did not get great views, but with me interviewing a sales trainer named Lee Salz, who was doing some speaking with our B2B sales team, and he told me that on his license plate he has differentiation, because that is the key to sales of anything, is differentiation in his opinion. And I got to say I agree with that, and I think that's quite smart. And so it's differentiation. It's like, how do we differentiate? Well, we differentiated in that we sell a higher quality product relative to the product that you see in stores, because like in stores they only are for the most part sell product that is only geared towards the residential market, really very like cheap flimsy air filters that are not to be used in commercial use cases, whereas all of our product is made to be able to work in either a commercial use case or a residential use case. So this is a higher quality product, and over time customers recognize that, and at least good reviews and this kind of stuff, and ultimately becomes a differentiator, which for us has been very important. So you have that, then you have selection in terms of the if you go into a Walmart or something like that, then you get the top 10 sizes maybe of air filters, but we have 350 sizes or so that we manufacture in 4 different MERV ratings. And so when you have an off the ball size, which a lot of people have because it's a big long tail, there are not many places you can get it. And early on, we were one of the only places you could get it, and so that was a big differentiator. And then on top of that, you have lead times and delivery. In that, you know, when you had those off the wall sizes or those custom sizes, historically the lead times would be weeks or months before you could get them, and we were turning them around in 24 hours, and we still do. So that would be another piece of that differentiation. And then over time, all of that has gone into building our brand, and we know we really invested heavily in that brand, in education and educating customers the differences and the importance of all this differentiation. So the key is to have a good product, be able to show show value through the differentiation of your product and your service. And the third is then to educate customers about it so that they understand why you are different. And we're really heavy in that third education piece now. Like we kind of built our receipts by like our reviews and our customer lists and all this kind of stuff by executing at a high level for the last 12 years. I mean, like that's how we've gotten to this point. And now we are all in on educating customers about our product and why we're different. And so we're actually putting out a video, I believe, about this tomorrow, which should go live, I guess, at 9 a.m. I think we're calling Marketing 2.0, but really talking about this exact subject where, now that we've kind of built the building block of a brand and the differentiators that I think you need to be able to have a brand, we're really now in the mode of, spreading that, loud and clear throughout the world about what we stand for and our brand and why we are um, differentiated. So that's really what I'm focused on at the moment, or we as a business are focused on at the moment, and that's kind of like the kind of ultimate stage, in my opinion, because my goal is not to build an air filter business; it's build an indoor air quality brand, more or less, and that's really where we pivoted. But that means that you have to have certain standards and quality and service that you stand for, and doing that consistently over a long period of time, and that's very difficult to do. And that's why you can build a brand in what most people to be considered to be a commodity like an air filter, because all the other players, even the very large companies, ultimately end up over time, cutting corners that diminish the value of their brand, and or product. And we've really fought hard to build this brand and loyalty over a long period of time, and that comes through differentiation and execution consistently. That consistent execution day in day out is the key, and that's very difficult to do in any business. It's very difficult to do in the air filtration business or in the indoor air quality business, but that is our commitment. That is my commitment, and that is what that's part of the reason why I'm going so public talking about it now is I want to differentiate even more around our brand. So, Michael, I'm losing my voice, so I'll take one more. RMAC Tactical. Thanks for sharing and making this channel. I am the CEO of our firearms retail store and looking to get into manufacturing using CNC in additive manufacturing. What has been your best way to create SOPs and systems for your manufacturing product process? Any insight is helpful. Um, Ultimately, it's to me, first principles thinking and going in and figuring it out yourself. I mean, it's like, um, I am a big proponent that, um, you've got to go in and, you know, understand your systems and processes as the CEO from start to finish yourself. Even I know it's easy to say that you want to have put somebody else in charge of this or to outsource it. But that very rarely works, in my opinion. And I think ironically, one of the advantages that I have had in the air filter business that I built is, I did not come from the air filter industry. I didn't know how anybody else was doing things. Like all I could do is go and kind of reverse engineer and figure out the best way to solve problems. And that is really what I view my job as the CEO and really the architect of this business is saying, okay, well, what is the most efficient way for us to be solving whatever problem it is that we are looking to solve, or whatever, and building a system that does just that. And the only way you do that is by really understanding how things work and how things are made, and not letting other people's processes pollute that. I mean, I think it's so easy to come in and say, "Oh well, this other successful company is doing it this way. We're just going to copy it." And oftentimes, what you'll find is that it doesn't work for you either because you have a different set of circumstances, or whoever built that process at that company just did it for reasons that make no sense in the end. I mean, I cannot tell you how often I come across that where we try to copy what somebody else is doing, and you realize in the end it makes absolutely no sense. And they may still be a successful company for other reasons, but it's not because of that system that you tried to copy. And that's why using first principles thinking is ultimately the best way that I know to problem solve, and ultimately that comes from the CEO. So especially if you're just getting started in it, you're going to have to be very much involved in that. It's not something that you can just go out and outsource, because it's rare. People are not going to care as much as you do, and that's also the differentiator that you as the entrepreneur or the CEO need to bring to that. So how would I create them? I would go in and figure out from the ground up what made the most sense, and kind of create them myself, and then pass them off to somebody to repeat them over and over again. So I think that the early SOPs, especially when you're getting going, are something that you need to take responsibility to create. Don't outsource that to somebody else, because I think you're not going to get the outcome that you want if you do that. So, with that, I'm going to end it. I apologize. I've been sick the last couple of days, so my throat hurts, and so I've had a bit of a difficult time articulating as well as I normally do. But please forgive me. I hope you found some value in those answers, and I really would appreciate it if you would like like this whatever platform you're on, because it does make a big difference. And I will plan on seeing you next week at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we'll do it hopefully without the sore throat then, and it'll be a little bit better. So have a great weekend, and I will see you in February. I can't believe January is already behind us. So have a good week, and talk to you next week.